Welcome to Wellbeing Weekly, and today's session is Brain Talk. I actually started calling it neuroplasticity and there was absolutely no response from anyone, and I thought, oh, maybe people think it's going to be heavy-duty science, and I didn't mean that at all. So I changed the name to Brain Talk, or Can We Heal with Our Brains? And I thought people... yeah, neuroplasticity is awesome. And it all means the same thing. And I thought, I think that the word neuroplasticity is momentum. People are understanding that word more and more, and that it's to do with the brain changing itself and folding into a new way of being and new neural pathways. So, yes, I invited Monica to join me today because I know that she works in this area as well, in a sense. And other people I invited along, and I'm so pleased that you've all joined us. And please feel free to add your comments or jump into the seat. There's a spare seat there if anyone likes to take it. And Merpo's still having problems. So I'm hoping that I might just cross that out and make that available.
To refresh themselves. Hopefully he got that message.
Okay. So, Monica, tell us where you're from and what you do. What's your area of interest?
So, well, thank you very much. I am here in Northern California, so it is yesterday. And I got into the brain has always been just a love of mine. I joke and say that if I won the lottery, I talk about with my husband, if we won the lottery, what would you do? We'd travel, we'd do all these things, but I'd probably go get like a degree in neuroscience. So I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree. I'm just fascinated. I've always been fascinated how the brain works and the mind works. And so my background actually is mainly in marketing and social media. So that's basically the majority of my clients I work with. But my passion is the brain. So on my Facebook page, my page is called Monica Ramos, Brain Coach and Social Media Trainer. So but the coaching side of it and the brain side of it, which again is my passion, is basically put into 3 parts. I start with brain education, just kind of let my clients kind of know just in layman's term how the brain works. The majority of it is the brain personality connection, which is that we all have, how there's all these personality types, Myers-Briggs and these DISC assessments and all of that. And so you can fall into all these categories, but naturally we have a certain quadrant of the brain that we just lead with. So if you were to all like fold your arms right now, just very naturally fold your arms, they go a certain way. But if you were to try to do it the other way, you kind of have to think about it, you could do it, but it takes a while. Same thing with your hands. When you cross your hands, there's a certain thumb that's dominantly on top. If to go the other way takes a little bit of thinking, processing, but you could do it. Same thing with right hand, left hand. So there's a certain lead that we all naturally tend to fall into. So there's personality assessments that'll say, okay, your natural brain lead is this. This is what you do without expending too much glucose in the brain. So you do it just naturally, and everybody's gifted in a certain way. So there's things I'm naturally good at that I'm terrible at. That doesn't make me any less or better. We're just different. So I help people discover what that is, along with, are you an introvert or an extrovert? The male brain is different than the female brain, and your sensory perception, are you auditory, visual, kinesthetic? Putting all that together to define, where you best perform so that you can live longer with less stress, less disease, because you're not spending time expending parts of the brain that really require a lot of work. So it's not that it's bad for you. It's actually good. It's a good exercise for the brain. But over a while of time, you will, that will start to break you down and wear you and cause stress. And so that leads to disease and illness. And so I help people with that. And then the last portion of my training, once we get beyond like who you are and really embracing what you're good at, so that you can, especially as a business owner, you can do what you're good at naturally and outsource the rest. Then I really focus on brain talk, self-talk, and the mind-body connection, the unconscious mind versus the conscious mind, and what you say to yourself on a regular basis to really shape the joy in your life. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do with the brain side of things. And I just love it. I absolutely love it.
Fantastic. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm trying to give you some little hearts or whatever they're called, but then it's not responding.
Props.
So, yeah, props. Okay, I'm used to thinking Periscope. I don't know what you call them here. Props. Okay.
Yeah, let's see. It's not working. You're right. It's not working for me either.
We might have outdone them. We might have exhausted them all.
Well, I don't think there's a max. It's looking like there's some kind of there's a little glitch, so that's okay.
Okay.
It's a bit glitchy here.
So thanks, Vin. We're joined by Vin at Vintuitive, and that's fantastic that you've come along, Vin, to join us. So I know that I've heard you talk on this area before as well, so I know that you have an interest in it. And I always think it's good for everyone to know click in Monica again. A few glitches today.
I think we're having issues.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to comment and I couldn't comment either. Now I can. I just wrote test.
Well, we lost both of us in the process as well. Oh, yeah, everything's working again now.
Working.
Okay. So, Vin, tell us a little bit about you so that everyone gets to know who is here.
Well, my business is Vintuitive, and I do social media promotion. But the reason I'm here is because I'm so interested in neuroplasticity and the ability to change the brain for the better and the worst. Like we say, when we feel that when we reach adulthood, say 18, that the brain stops, there's no longer plastic and it doesn't change and it's fully formed and that's it for the rest of your life. And that's how we thought of the brain for many years until fairly recently, really. And now it's understood that we have a malleable brain throughout our whole life, and so that we can improve our brain and correct bad habits or things like this. I did post in the chat there a link to a book, which I encourage everyone to read. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's called In the Shallows by Nick Carr, and you can visit his website there, Nicholas Carr, sorry. And it's all about this topic, brain plasticity. So that's me.
Yeah, thanks, Vin. And a little bit about me. My website, I'll start with the website, is margaretlambert.com. And I work in a little bit similar way to Monica. I'm a psychologist who works with people on individual basis or in groups for achieving whatever goals they want to achieve. And a lot of that is healing work, personal healing work for people. And I'm a big believer in, if we want to overcome our conditions and chronic illness, that we actually need to pay attention to our whole life story. And if we want to move forward in our lives in a significant way, in, say, recreating ourselves, moving beyond what we have positioned ourselves and we've become accustomed to, we still need to pay attention to our life story, because it's in our life story that our thoughts, feelings and beliefs have become comfortable and entrenched. And so if we don't pay attention to all of that and do some treatment and healing work in looking at why those beliefs, thoughts and feelings might be getting in the way of us moving forward, we're probably not going to be achieving the goals that we want to achieve. I've written, my first book was published. I'm on to my third at the moment, but my first book is about healing from a chronic illness, and it's called Longing to Live, Journey with Chronic Fatigue Syndrome and Fibromyalgia. And that was particularly dedicated to those conditions and chronic illness. But the book I'm writing now is more in the lines of paying attention to your life story. And of course, the first book paid some attention to that, but this is really opening that up a lot more, that we really do need to pay attention to our whole set of experiences from the time we're born and even maybe before, because we actually don't know how much of that is entrenched in us. And if we're failing to achieve our goals, or if we're failing to feel in a comfortable position in our lives, undoubtedly we need to look at our life story rather than just the particular aspect that we might think is causing, you know, our condition, like, you know, high blood pressure. and we have a lot of stress. So that's a very narrow aspect of looking at it. So I've become very interested in the brain as a result of all of that work. It fits very neatly, and amazing work has been done, as Vin said, in making advances on how we view the brain now, where it was once felt and believed that it was a static part of us, and that's the only part that never changes. Amazing discoveries have been found now, and neuroplasticity has really become a field that is gathering so much interest in terms of health and healing and overcoming conditions without medical intervention and without surgeries. So, yeah, on that note, I'm wondering, I've been very interested in the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. You may have heard of him. He's right out there in researching. He overcame his condition of having fractured spine from an accident. It was fractured in many places, and he disregarded all the surgeries that were recommended, and by thought alone he was able to heal himself. So he's gone on to research this in a big way as well, to ask the question, can thought alone heal us? And so the question that I pose to kick off comes from him, Dr. Joe, and it's a statement really, but I'd love your comments. He says, your personality creates your reality. And so can we change our personality, thereby changing our reality?
Interesting. I think, just to give you a chance to think about that, Monica, I think that our personality changes over a life. I was thinking about this just a couple of days ago about myself, and if I could meet my younger self. I think one of our people have done a blab about this. What would you say to younger self? And it got me thinking about it. You know, and I realized that I'm not really the same person. I have changed, and it's the experiences and things that change you. So your personality isn't really that rigid and static. It does change just with your own experience. So I think it could be actively changed or positively changed by intention. What do you think, Monica?
Well, I definitely believe that you can, one of my mottos is believing is seeing, not the other way around. So for me, what I believe about my life and the stories I tell myself, so whatever picture I'm painting on the inside is going to show up on the outside. So I definitely believe, I mean, who I am today was not who I was 20 years ago. It's the complete opposite of who I am today. So yeah, you can change who you are, and it really has to do with, you know, that whole believability. And, you know, you were talking about, you know, changing, you know, it's about the story you tell, but it's also what you tell yourself, what you believe. I mean, we believe a belief is just a thought that you think about a lot, so much so that it's embedded and you believe it, and beliefs can be changed. So, you know, if you believe someone tells you, you know, that you're not good at something, or you believe that because of maybe the context, you know, like there could be a really great artist, you know, in the making, and maybe in second grade or third grade, he drew a tiger. and was really proud of it and showed his teacher. And the teacher says, oh, that's a really nice picture of a lion or whatever, something else. And that may make him kind of go, well, I guess I'm not very good at drawing then, even though he probably is, the world's greatest artist coming forward. You never know. But because of these situations and anything highly emotionally charged, so situations that, because, you remember things when there's a very strong emotional attachment to it. You can't remember what you did 4 Tuesdays ago or 10 Tuesdays ago, but you know what you were doing on November 11th, the day that the Twin Tower was struck down. We know that because there's an emotional charge attached to that. So when you're hurt or somebody puts you down about something that maybe you believed about yourself or didn't believe, you tend to carry that with you. And it takes a while to kind of retell ourselves the stories that we believe about ourselves. And for the longest time, I was very negative, and I thought, the world owed me something, and it was always someone else's fault. And I really had to do a lot of work to love myself and change my self-talk and what I thought about myself, and being able to look in the mirror and love the person looking back at me. And doing that really made me a completely different person. So I definitely believe that you can change who you are. Based on many things, but definitely on what you believe, what you tell yourself, and the thoughts going on there in the mind. Definitely.
Yeah. I agree with both you, Monica, and Ben, that our personalities do change over time, and we evolve depending on our set of life circumstances. I'm reminded of a bit of a funny story where the husband and wife are not getting on, and so they go into counselling. And there's another true story of my clients, by the way. And so the husband says, she's not the girl I married. And the wife says, yes, and unfortunately he's still the boy I married. And so people have a different perception of whether we should be changing, I suppose, or whether we should be staying the same. And people don't like it when some people change. I used to get on so well with them, but now they've changed. We hear that a lot. They've changed, and it's like a negative thing. But I actually think it's part of our responsibility to change. It's part of us evolving.
I like the word
growing.
You used, evolve.
Yes.
I like that.
And really, like Monica, you talked about beliefs, and our beliefs are so important, and they can catch us, and they can have us become stuck and become true to our beliefs. I'm a firm believer of, and I'm true to my beliefs and values for that matter. But you know what? I have come to believe that our beliefs, that they're just a bunch of words. And so we can choose any words we like. And so if we've got a bunch of words that aren't serving us well, it makes sense to go get a better bunch of words, ones that are going to serve us a whole lot better.
Yeah, I usually like to ask people when they say, well, it's just, I'm never going to do this, or I always get sick in December, or he's always going to be that way, or I'm never going to get out of this job, or whatever, I don't think I'm going to make the team. How's that story working out for you? Because the stories you're telling are what's going to match up in the outside world. The reticular activating system in the brain is looking for, there's so much that we process, 40 billion bits per second, that you can't, the brain has to remember to breathe and to walk and put one foot in front of the other. And the brain's got to work all your internal systems and all that. So this unconscious mind is doing all these other things. So the conscious mind can only concentrate on a few things at a time, but it's doing so much that you need to kind of tell the reticular activating system, which is down in the base of the brain, is the one that matches up to find what what you've got programmed in there, it's going to match that up for you. Like when you're pregnant, everybody's pregnant. When you buy a red car, you always see the red car. You see something when it's brought to your attention. So the more you focus on something, the more you're going to see of that. So I always say, how's that working out for you? How's that picture matching up? And I always say, the problem's not the problem. The problem is that we're talking about the problem. We're focusing on the problem. We are creating that problem. It's just a thought. You can change that and create something else. Create what you want to see, what you want to happen.
Yeah. I was recently in Brisbane, and I actually didn't say where I'm from, but I'm from Darwin, Australia, and Vin's from Adelaide, Australia.
California.
Monica, where are you from?
Northern California.
Catch that. California, USA. So I was recently in Brisbane at a talk by Wayne Dyer, the wonderful Wayne Dyer, and Anita Morjani. And Anita gave us this little exercise to do. She said, just pretend you're in a warehouse. And, I'll do a different one. She said, open your eyes, look around the room and look for everything that is blue. Just take on board everything that is blue, everything you can see that is blue, and commit that to memory. Commit that to your focus. Okay, and then just close your eyes for a moment. And now just know everything that was blue that you had seen. And now open your eyes, and I want you to tell me all the red things that were there. So the purpose of that exercise was, when we focus on what we're looking for, we actually miss a whole lot more. And that's exactly what you're saying, Monica. And we are so fixed, I suppose, in our focus. As you said, our reticular activating system, it's designed to filter out all the stimuli around us, because obviously we can't take everything in. If I put two people in this room I'm in right now and then walk outside and say, what did you notice? Everyone will come up with something different. Mm-hmm. And it's like watching a movie. Everyone, when you're sharing the story at the end, well, remember, I didn't like it when he said that to her. Right. No, he didn't. And so you've got a whole different idea of what the reality was. It brings into question again what is real and what's the reality. And very important, that the point that you made, Monica, that whatever we focus on, we'll actually get more of it into our focus and into our brains, and we'll filter out all of the other stuff. We'll filter out all of the red stuff. It
reminds me of a proverb, or it's not a proverb, it's an Indian story where there's three Indians looking at an elephant, and they're all surrounding it from, so they're all looking at it from different angles. So the one at the front is looking at its head, the one at the back is looking at its tail, and they all see something completely different, and they describe these different things, but they're all describing the one same thing. But none of them can see the whole entire picture, so they think they're looking at three different things by the description. Right. But you talked about men and women having different brains or different perceptions, and I never like to, I rarely like to create a division to separate us, men from women. But there is a thing that I've noticed, and people have talked about it, where, the woman will say, "Oh, can you get the such and such out of the drawer or the cupboard?" And the man will go there and look, and it'll be there, but he won't be able to see it because he's looking. It's like I don't really understand why that this happens, but I'll open the drawer and I won't see the potato smasher or masher. I call it a potato smasher, because we're just looking for different. I think men sort of look for the different thing that was different to the last time they looked in there. So they're not actually
men are
everything.
Actually the brain, and it is biologically different. The brain is different. The connections, the women's brain can make connections faster. We can all make them, but the women's brain makes connections faster on different sides of the brain. So the neural pathways can travel, make that bridge, that gap a lot faster. I always like to describe it as a woman's brain is like a superhighway with exits and turns and lanes and all this going on. And a man's brain is it's kind of like this country road, which is very focused and determined and does things one at a time, where a woman tries to do too much. I mean, she can handle it, but it's not necessarily healthy. But, it's when you learn that, you can kind of say, and men are very good at that. They can, the task at hand, they want just the one thing. They're not looking for, like my husband says all the time, I'm like, well, this has been here all week on your dresser. Well, I've never had to look for it. So what, I'm not focused on that, which can be a very important skill when you need to focus on something one at a time, where you're just kind of half-assing it over everything. So there are a lot of, the connections they can be made, but they're made a lot faster and stronger in the female makeup of the brain. And I don't know if that has to do with, the way we were designed, because, a woman has to care for the children. I'm not quite sure where that comes from. I still have to do a lot more research on that. But the chemical makeup is different, but it benefits in different ways. And that's not to say that a woman's brain cannot be very much like a man's brain and work in that way when it needs to, or that a man can't be very, can do multitasking and have all of those capabilities as well. It can be on both sides. It's just they're biologically made a little bit different. They're not exactly the same. And I help people just kind of understand that so they can communicate better, especially, in families, or whether it's in business or wherever. You just kind of, once you understand how someone's brain works, you're better. It's a better way to communicate, I think. It helps.
I think that distinction should be made, though, that not all women's brains are the same, not all men's brains.
Oh, that's true. Very true.
So, for example, a left-handed person will have a right hemisphere of their brain more dominant than a right-handed person.
Right.
And women, will be, so there's more factors to just male and female. There's like left-handed and right-handed, and
right.
How the hemispheres work together are quite different between right-handed people.
Yeah, there's many factors. That's one small factor. I mean, there's also some people are kinesthetic, or some people are more visual. And then there's extroverts versus introverts, which has nothing to do with being shy or outgoing. It has to do with how much external stimulus the brain needs to be happy and alert and stay awake or not. So that, and sometimes, the personalities of whether you're, shy or not, that it has to do with whether you're self-confidence or self-esteem, not so much being an introvert. But because maybe you are an introvert and you process things, you're more quiet, people can kind of label you that way, and that could lead to that type of personality. But that also has a lot to do with it, and that's on both sides, male and female. So there's a lot that goes into determining who we are and why we think the way we are.
Yeah.
Hi, Leaf.
Hi, Leaf. Hey there. I just, I don't want you guys to be worried that I'm going to crash, because I am in a car, but I thought I'd just quickly tell the story that you invited me to come in and say. This was back about the attention question. And speaking of attention, while I'm driving.
Pay attention.
So, yeah, pay attention. Yes, the experiment is absolutely insane. And unfortunately, the problem is that as soon as I tell you this experiment, you're not going to be able to do it. But I can guarantee you, if you hadn't known about it, you would have fell for it. So you watch this video. If you go on YouTube and you search for attention gorilla, you'll probably find it. And the way it works is you're asked to count the number of times a ball is passed between these people that are passing a basketball around each other.
I've seen that. This is good.
This is good. It's insane. So you watch the ball, and you're sitting there trying to count the ball. I think it says when it's passed to a person wearing a certain colored shirt. And at the end of the video, it says, what did you count? But the point isn't what you counted. It says, but did you see the giant gorilla that walked by? And you're like, no way, whatever, there's no way. But sure enough, they replay it for you. And you're so shocked that you think they must have put this in a second video. And so you go back to the beginning of the video. But sure enough, a guy dressed as a giant gorilla is walking slowly across in the middle of all these people passing a basketball, and you did not see him.
I had a...
It's insane. it drives the point about attention selection home like nothing I've ever seen before. So check it out.
I had a completely different response to that video, and I was just puzzled about it. I thought, well, how could anyone possibly watch this and not see the gorilla? And obviously everyone saw the gorilla. And there were people saying, no, I didn't see the gorilla. And I said,
a little bit of feedback. A little bit of feedback. But if you just mute, this is the one on
I
mobile.
wondered if perhaps,
Then we can hear him.
I think we need to mute.
Yeah, can you say that again? Because, oh, well, he left. If this ever happens to you in the future and someone doesn't mute themselves if they're on mobile, you can actually mute their box.
No, you can't. It only works for
sound
you.
will come through. But say that again, Vin.
The muting thing, just for your information, only works for you. If you mute that guy, it doesn't work for me.
That's what I mean, like for each person. If
if
we can't get rid of them.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So that thing, I had a completely different response for that. And as I commented when he said, did you see that gorilla video? I said, yeah, I thought it was a joke because I just thought it was just some humorous video that someone had made. But I didn't think it was all that funny. And I thought, well, how could anyone possibly watch this video and not see this guy in the gorilla suit? I mean, I was shocked that people said they couldn't see it. And I wondered, Monica, if this has perhaps something to do with women and men. And I mean, I'm sort of suggesting that I might have a women's brain, that I was able to count the balls, but I was also able to not lose focus.
I didn't see the gorilla.
You didn't? Did you, Margaret?
I was one of those people that was like, no way.
Wow.
There's no way I went back and watched it because I was focusing on the balls. And there's actually an episode of Brain Games. I don't know if you see that show, that there's a whole bunch of these. And, you know, the more they do them, then you start to realize the pattern. Okay, there's going to be something in the background I'm not seeing, and then you catch it. But no, I don't think it has to do with male or female.
Yeah.
you were saying that
you have a very perceptive brain.
Well, I didn't. Well,
sorry, you were saying that.
It could do because I didn't see the gorilla either. So we're both female.
That's interesting.
But I tend to think that there is a difference in males and females apart from what we can visibly see. Yeah. I think it makes absolute sense that if there's such a visible difference with the physical bodies, why wouldn't there be a difference with the non-physical parts of us as well?
I think we tend
that makes absolute sense.
Favour the belief that it might instead be a cultural thing, you know, that men and women are different because culturally we're brought up different and we're treated differently throughout our lives. But yeah, I think that's the best way to look at it, Margaret, that, you know, we have different physical traits. So, you know, our brain is also a physical organ. So it stands the reason that.
Well, I mean, the size and the structure is different. I was kind of looking at my notes because I had some, I'm doing actually male versus female brain is one of my upcoming topics. So I had all this stuff. I was like, I should probably pull that out. But there are some different, you know, structurally, I mean, there's size and weight, but it's interesting because at the right hemisphere is more developed at birth in men, and the left hemisphere is more developed in birth at women. And that's across the board. Like that's studied by, you know, the actual looking at the brain and the process of gestation when you're, you know, as you're being in your 9 months in the womb. They do all these studies, male brains versus female brains, and they actually develop differently at different rates. Certain parts develop first in you know, in 100% of women, and 100% of men it's something else. So you know, biologically they are different, but I do think that cultural and psychological and all of those things do play have a role. And we're also, you know, changing. We're changing as a society as a whole, you know, even just storybooks. It's always the wicked stepmother and, you know, and the prince saves the day. So as little girls, they're raised differently to believe what the differences in the roles between men and women are. And all of that plays into, you know, there's so many aspects. We could spend all night talking about how men's and brains develop differently, but biologically, structurally, they are different. And so recognizing that is important. I don't think you have a female brain, Vin. I just think that you have a very perceptive brain, and you're very good at catching things that, you know, the rest of us are maybe hyper focused on. Or
maybe I lack focus.
No, I'm not saying that. But, there are people who have said, it's not very common, but I have seen the certain comments like, oh, I saw the gorilla right away. And I'm thinking, well, I must be stupid because I didn't see it. Right.
Yeah, I felt like a bit of an idiot when I didn't see. When you go back and watch it, like it's there,
Yeah.
you couldn't not
that's
see
what
it.
I was so. That's why I was so puzzled, and I thought I was the idiot because I was different to everyone else, and everyone else didn't see it, and I thought, what's wrong with me? But I not I lack focus. But
no, it's the same principle as looking for red or blue. Whatever you focus on, you'll see. And so I think I'm coming to the belief now that our society now for quite a while has been so fixed and so focused on looking for sickness and illness, like all of the cancers, like we want to look for it earlier. Mm-hmm. We have more campaigns. We're thinking about it. Everyone knows someone who's got cancer and they begin to worry about something in themselves then when you have symptoms. There seems to be so much focus on illness, and guess what I think we're finding? We're bound to find what we go looking for. And so I'm wondering, if we go looking for red, we'll find red. If we go looking for blue, we'll find blue and we'll exclude more of the other colour. So can we apply that to our health? If we go looking for health and wellness rather than campaign after campaign of sickness treatments, what would we
even
find?
just something simple as pain. There's people who can give birth with no pain because they've trained their mind so much to focus on something else that takes them out of the pain. It's like when you're driving, it's that unconscious mind versus the conscious mind. It will tend to wander. You'll go into this unconscious state where you'll be driving for 5-10 minutes and realize, where was I for the last 10 minutes? You drove. You got to where you were going, but your mind was somewhere else. It was almost like you were on autopilot. So, we definitely can detach and unfocus or focus, at will. And sometimes it's involuntarily. It's just the way that but if you can pay attention to when that happens, and like you're right, if you do focus on wellness, on health, on solutions versus problems, you'll find them more. And, people say, oh, well, then, you're kind of living in your own world. Well, I love my world. If everything's working well and I'm successful and happy in this world, I love it then. I don't bother myself with the rest of the world that's not seeing it the way I do. So what if my reality is different than yours? I'm the one living in it, and I want to live in it as healthy and as long as possible.
Yeah, I love it. I love that perspective.
Hello.
And welcome, Christy.
Hello, that's peachy.
Hey, lovely that you jumped.
I've just realised I've need a haircut really bad. I'm like, oh god.
Oh, it's pulled back. You can't tell. Looks fine to me.
Fancy.
Oh, nice.
This is such a great
Looks
conversation. Hi.
Tell us your... Oh, so, please offer your pearls of wisdom on any of this.
I have been working quite a bit from a physical level and pain level with neuroplasticity. So, and with retraining people's brains on how they perceive their pain. So that's been a really, I think, everyone's who's been talking so far has kind of come from a top level down. So it's like how you think about it, what's happening in the brain and all this kind of stuff. And then it's really kind of cool where you can actually go from the bottom up and physically change patterning and things like that. And that changes how the brain functions as well. So I just was listening and I'm just like, oh, everyone's like, you can get down on the ground and change your brain, like how you pattern and stuff. So you can do rolling techniques and go through what they call primal movements. So like crawling and repatterning, because a lot of times we lose those parts of our brain that develop as a baby from sitting for too long and all this kind of stuff. So it's fascinating to me how we can kind of work from a top level down or from a bottom level up to help kind of change how plastic our brain is. That was my thought.
When you say bottom, you're saying starting from a practical, physical level.
Yeah. So
and top being theoretical.
Theoretical, yeah. So basically, you can start from that kind of real structural meat and bones kind of level, getting people to really kind of look at how their body's functioning and moving and things like that, and change how their brain is responding to what they're doing, because the brain tells we have a conversation with our body, and we have this conversation where our brain says, oh, well, we'll do this thing because that's how we've always done it. And we'll sit a certain way, or we'll do a certain thing. And again, like you said, Monica, where you'll drive to a certain place, you won't really remember how you got there. So we kind of run a lot on autopilot, and physically that's how we run a lot of the time. And so you have to actually stop and go backwards and kind of retrain from that really base level of like baby movements, like getting people crawling on the floor and like understanding how their body patterns. And that's how I've been working with my clients to change pain patterns in their brain. So, but then you also have to get them understanding that they're in control of their own pain. So mentally, if they're not thinking about how their pain is kind of manifesting, why it's manifesting, when it's coming up, what they're saying to themselves when it happens, like, all these things, then you can't kind of fight a one-pronged attack. You have to kind of come at it from all these different levels. So, yay, hi.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And we have to interrupt those the automatic thinking, because the automatic thinking, because it's automatic, it's almost, it requires no thinking. and it's just the body responds to the circumstances.
Something I took from the Nick Carr book, The Shallows, was that habit literally changes the physical structure of your brain, and that sort of blew me away when I understood that. Yes. Because it means, it's really, really empowering, because it means that you can just simply break your habit, form a new habit, and that will form a change in your brain, and you'll be able to do something that you couldn't do before. For example, ironically, when I first got that book, I couldn't read it. I had changed my brain through years of daily social media flitting about, skipping across in the shallows, as to use his euphemism, where I wasn't going deep. I wasn't deeply reading anything for longer than 5 or 10 minutes. So that when I sat down to try and attempt to read a book for the first time in several years, I found I couldn't do it. I read a paragraph. I thought I wanted to go and click on something and, distract myself. And I was looking for distractions and finding them quite easily. So I actually had to sit down, and luckily, I have a very strong perseverance. And I think I'm quite unusual in that sense. So a lot of people wouldn't have persevered and wouldn't have changed their brain back to the ability to read a book. But I did. And I really had to try a lot, really hard. I read that same page over and over and over and over, until I could remember what I did, what I'd read before I turned the page. And like I say, it was hard work. But after a few pages, I was in the swing of it, and I was back into reading, and my brain had physically changed, and I was able to read the book. And it was so ironic.
You doing that. Yes, you doing that and repeating that has strengthened the neural pathways. Every time we learn something new, a new neural pathway is established, and that becomes strengthened the more that we practice it. And we know it when we think of learning a sport, like holding a tennis racket, learning to play tennis. It's uncomfortable to hold the racket in a certain way to begin with. And then the more we practice it, and so it's strengthening that neural pathway that is having us feel more comfortable until the point that it becomes automatic. And so you can do that particular function that you've learned that was so awkward before, you can do it reasonably comfortably. And so it is, that's the breaking the habit that you're talking of, Ven. Yes, it's awkward to begin with, but if we fail to practice it, then we fail to strengthen the neural pathway that will have us move to a position
almost
of it
automatic,
feeling comfortable.
You know, it just happens automatically. Like a baby, going back to the whole baby thing, you know, a baby, when it has to learn to walk, it takes so much energy and energy expenditure, glucose, oxygen, all of that in the brain to learn to put one foot in front of the other and balance, and where do my hands go, and am I going to fall? But over time, you know, babies get better, and then we become us. We're just walking around. The body's still doing all of the same things, but it's just on autopilot because we've been doing it for so long. We don't have to think about balance and one foot in front of the other as a baby does when it's learning to walk. And we can do the same thing with anything, even just, you know, I help my clients with training their brain to see the good, to see the positive, to, you know, negate the negative self-talk. It's not easy. You know, you have to do it daily, and then it becomes automatic. Any habit, just like you said, Vin, it takes practice. So you kept reading that same page over and over, but you were determined and you got it. The brain is so magnificent. Anything is possible. We have so much that we can do. You know, there's that myth that you only use a certain percentage of your brain. We use the whole brain. We just only use a certain percentage at a time, and we can work to grow that and strengthen it. There's just so much more. I'm excited what the future holds with brain science and all the, you know, neuroplasticity is just an amazing topic of all the things we could do to further this. So, you know, people like you, good for you, Vin, being, I don't know what you said, you called yourself, you're a little strange or weird. You are, you know, perhaps the exception, but I'd love to study your brain. We need more people like that.
I would love to study my brain. You know, in Taoism, in Taoist literature, you know, traditional Chinese wisdom, they often use the water as a metaphor for many things. And I think water or streams or trickling of water is a really good analogy for the pathways of the brain in that, you know, if you were to pour water down a sloping dirt thing, I remember we would have done this as a kid, you know, playing in the dirt with the water. And when you pour the water down one way, you know, it doesn't take long for a path to sort of form. And then the rest of the water goes down that path. But you can very easily sort of steer it away from that path. But if the path gets bigger and it turns into like a creek or a river, it gets more and more difficult to change its course. But it's still possible. And I think the brain pathways are like that.
Yeah,
there's always a...
I love that metaphor.
But Monica,
I love it.
As well.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it is a strong, thick creek or river, it's still possible to change. But Monica, you when you said that thing about the hands, you know, I've seen that one before, and it's a really good example that people can use to say, okay, well, how do you clasp your hands? Well, I'm left-handed, so I probably clasp them the opposite way. But then I tried to do it the other way, and my fingers got, you know, if you try and do it quickly, your fingers sort of get all caught up. But try it for like 4 or 5 minutes, and you master it, and you can do it really quickly and easily. It's no problem at all. And so that's proof that you've just changed your brain in 5 minutes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So if we know that that's the case, how can we use our knowledge here to improve our own health and improve the health of people we work with? I know, well, Monica and Christy are working with people who are in pain or discomfort in some way in their lives. And perhaps then you are also just with people you know, or just ourselves in general. How do we use this knowledge that our brain is quite remarkable in learning new things? How can we apply it to better health for ourselves?
I would say, as I said with my social media thing, there's positives and negatives. There's pros and cons. You know, you can change your brain for the worse. So by getting into social media and doing that all day, every day, you're going to change your brain for the worse. You know, make it shallower, less deep, and less able to do fully deep structured things. So the way to break it would be to break that habit, to stop doing that and just do something else. Change your morning routine. Start juggling. Pick up the guitar. Try to whistle. You know, just do something.
Read a book.
Yeah. In fact, Mark, your yesterday's tapping scope you did was, I think, the best scope you've ever done. It was really good. And you talked about whistling and singing and counting as a way. All you did was counted to 5, and then you just sung "Happy Birthday," and you just sort of kept crossing over. And you said it was a very simple way to merge the two hemispheres. And I thought, something as simple as that is something that we can do.
Yes, yeah. That's why I love to run those tapping periscopes every week, because it is such a simple technique and we've got it at our fingertips. And I know that Monica uses it as well with her clients.
I'm actually I'm not new to the idea of tapping, because a lot of my clients, that's what they do. Maybe it's only been a year that I myself started practicing working with all these clients, saying, okay, I think that's something I'm going to finally give a try. Been reading about it and following, like Nick and Jessa Ortner and all of these, big names. And I've known about it, and I've interviewed people, on different shows that specialize in that. It's one more thing, So 3 or 4 years ago, it was like, okay, now I'm really going to master meditating. That was my thing. And it's been kind of on the back burner. So it's still fairly new to me. Over the last year, it's when I really started incorporating it into my life.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I saw a title with tapping that you were hosting.
Interviewing an expert. I should interview
so I
you.
Thought,
as well. I'm not the expert.
So, well, I've been doing it for over 20 years now, and it's actually the method I used to break into the cycle of my automatic thinking and dismantling my beliefs and thoughts around my debilitative illness. And I trained with Gary Craig, the founder of the technique in Chicago, and Dr. McCullough. I went over there for a session on using EFT for serious diseases. And I've since worked with, apart from myself, and if chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia is serious or not, but it kind of wipes you out and puts you out of the step of life for significant periods of time. But I have seen remarkable recoveries, remarkable outcomes of people with really, big issues or big obstructions that are stopping them to move forward. And I think if we're talking about the brain, I actually think that a method like using the tapping, it goes beyond just our thinking about it and making sense logically. Oh, yes, I do want to do that. Oh, yes, and we often can't see what's getting in the way. We can't see the trees for the forest, if you like. We're so used to our life looking like this. And it's often when we begin to, do the tapping for a particular condition we have, a particular discomfort at the moment, that we begin to uncover some of the beliefs that are sitting underneath that. And when we uncover that, we can actually heal it and then it's much easier to create the new pathway that we want forward. So, I think we have to, our thoughts alone don't do it. So yes, the brain's very powerful. It's not the whole part of the story.
The thought,
but it might be.
The thoughts, right. But
we
the
have
thing
to
is
evolve
when
the
you
body.
When you start to do that, you begin to open up possibilities, things you maybe not have noticed that would draw me to somebody like you, where I will end up in a blab like this that would lead me to take down that practice that's going to heal me, or open my eyes up to a certain type of diet or something where I can heal myself on the inside, that maybe if you didn't start, training your brain and your thought patterns, you may not have noticed or been receptive to. Going back to, we didn't see the gorilla going by throwing the basketballs because we're so focused on the problem or the pain or traditional ways I really think your question you had asked is how do we do this to help, heal ourselves? And I think the key is education. And platforms like this are great, like Blab, where people can come in here and go, oh, about the brain, let me see. And then hear you talking and go, what's EFT? What's tapping? Maybe they'll go Google it, or you drop in a link where they can learn more or watch a video. And that could be something that changes someone's whole life. So, there's so many, I believe that we as humans, we're so miraculous. We can heal ourselves with our own selves, our own minds, our bodies, practices we do, a lot of ancient traditions that get buried, big pharma's trying to make us pay for, this magic pill that's going to solve the world because there's money in that. But I think it should be, and what I love about this platform and meeting people, and why I was excited to come on here with you, is because I know what you're about. I know the direction you're going. I'm trying to start this movement. I call it Blab It Up. Started a little group on Facebook, blabitup.com, where if you're all about providing a message that's going to uplift someone or help them in some way, in a positive way, then we want to hear about it. And I think there should be more of that. I hear so much about how Blab's really addicting and everybody's on it. It's like the new reality TV. And I think, well, that's good. That's better than the crap that's out there. I would love for people to come in and learn things and learn from you guys, very intelligent people, very smart people coming from all different walks of life, on topics like this, like how can we use this information to heal the world? And so I guess rambling on and on, the bottom line is I'm going to come back to is I think the key is really just getting the education out there. And we have a platform here with this Blab I Am that we can do that. And who cares who doesn't like it? Let's go out there and let people know what they can do, that they can really heal themselves. There are methods out there.
Yeah, it is exciting times. And before, like, we've been on air really? For an hour now, and I don't like to run these much more than the hour. Time flies. We could keep on going, but I'll just hold up this book. It's The Brain's Way of Healing by Norman Doidge. That's full of stories of people who have use their brain to heal their conditions. The one I'm reading right now is Parkinson's disease. And, some people are in disbelief and some people don't want to know about it. So it will only talk to the people who are open-minded, as our discussion here today. And so I'm really pleased that you've joined in, and all of you guys and the people who have joined on the side, thanks so much. And those who are viewing from elsewhere, you're obviously open-minded people, that you're not stuck in our traditional thinking and medical model that there is only one pathway to healing. We're opening up a whole new platform besides Blab on health and healing. And I think it is exciting times. I do get quite excited when I think about it. So on that note, if we just run around the boxes, if you've any last thing to say before winding up, Monica.
I wanted to the book you held up. I have that book as well. I really like it. I think that's excellent. I would say go get that. Another author I would look into is Norman Cousins, Head First. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He did a lot of studies. Kind of was a pioneer in getting helping people focus using their thoughts and their own mind to heal themselves from illnesses and recover and get back to their lives. He worked in hospitals down in UCLA. And so that's a really good book. I can put a link in if you guys would like. And also learn about the brain in a fun way. Get yourself a human brain coloring book. You can I can put a link in for that too. Yeah, and you know what? It's not only do you get to learn in a fun way, but the brain likes that idiomotor skills where you're using your hands and, something different than just reading. So that would be my 2 cents. Maybe drop a couple of links for where you can get some more education on brain health, along with what you guys have left here. And I know there's a few other resources in there that are great. And I would encourage the rest of you to also, anytime there's a resource somebody recommends, I'm going to go check it out, especially if it has to do with brain or mind health. So, and thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for your great contribution. Christy, any last words from you?
I actually wanted to just express how thankful I was. I'm not sure. I think it was maybe 2 Wednesdays ago. We had the Blab, and I'm not sure if I told you guys, but Tanya, who was here. She came in, had a session with me.
Yeah.
She's now had 2 sessions. She's basically 100% pain-free.
Wow.
Ooh.
So
Wow.
I just like, I think that for me, like, just really shows how powerful this platform can actually be. So, and it's, I mean, like for me, I'm like, you're right, pain-free, but it's just one of those, like, it would never have happened had I not jumped on, and she would still be stuck. And and I think that we can build a global community, but we can also touch individual people's lives. And so, but also get up, everybody, get out of your chairs. That's pretty much my constant tip for everyone is basically just stand up, move around, stop sitting.
Yeah. We should have our computers on pedestals rather than on desks.
I do a treadmill on Wednesdays. I do walk Wednesdays where I blab from my treadmill desk, trying to encourage other people to do the same.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. And so good to hear a good news story, Christy. That's great. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Vin, any last words?
Yeah, if I would just I could just add on to Christy's and say, it's as easy as getting up and walking out the door. It's just starting. It's like washing up. You put it off. But if you just start filling the sink up, then the rest of it all just flows. So I often tell myself that if I just step outside, put on my shoes, that's all I have to do. And the rest just takes care of itself. I just walk around the block and I come back and it's, 15, 20 minutes later and I've done it. And I could do that every day. And there's nothing stopping me doing that except for myself. So yeah, that's one thing. And I would encourage anyone to juggle. I think juggling is so beneficial for your brain. It takes a long time to learn, but it is. I've benefited so much from juggling.
Are you going to give us a demonstration on juggling? Are we going to have a blab on juggling in our next Wellbeing? The next Wellbeing Weekly is actually going to be EFT. So that's next Wednesday. We're going to just open up EFT. What is it? How can we use it? Maybe learn a few of the sequences, learn it online or on Blab, just do some quick sequences. People who have stories about EFT, love to hear from them, what they've used it for and how it can benefit others. So, I hope you can join in. And thanks, everyone. Thank you, Monica, for accepting the invitation to come. And I think your contribution has been just fantastic.
My thanks to you.
So I'll be
Christy and
certainly
Ben as well.
looking out for more of your blabs
Monica.
too.
Thank you, Monica.
Only because of this that I got to meet you. So thank you, Margaret.
Yeah.